course, once again, it's a pleasure to be in conversation with you. And of course, the book that we are going to be talking about today, Until I Find You. Uh, it's a very gripping, emotionally rich book which is full of unexpected turns. So today I'm looking forward to unpacking the story with you, the themes, your writing process, and everything in between. So let's just dive in.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all of you for taking time to be here and to listen to my story. And it's always lovely to kind of talk about one's writing journey, to share my experiences. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for being here.
So, of course, the first question, which I think is a question that you, I guess, expect all the time, that what was that spark or the idea that led to Until I Find You?
Okay, so I'll have to go a little back to tell you the story. So I have this very peculiar habit. I like to surf the net for unsolved police cases, cold cases. I mean, cold cases are those which have gone where the trail has dried up and have gone cold. That's an unsolved case which has been languishing in the police files, is known as cold cases. Unsolved mysteries and strange happenings in the world. I don't know why, Sangeeta, but I've always had a fascination for these, and not just recently, but for many years, I've often surfed the net for these kind of cases, and I have a folder in which I maintain some of them. So this was sometime in 2018 when I had already submitted my second book, Nobody's Child, and HarperCollins would be publishing it in 2019. So I was just generally, ambling through, Googling, and that ChatGPT hadn't yet happened. It has made things easier for me to hunt for these things with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I was just, Googling, and I came upon this article about the cult leader called Jim Jones, and his cult, which was called the People's Temple, and the People's Temple massacre, which happened in USA in 1971. I began reading about it. In 1971, the entire cult of about 300 people, they committed suicide by drinking a fruit drink laced with cyanide, and Jim Jones also killed himself. So, I read a little more about Jim Jones. He was a huge figure, huge cult leader in USA in the 1970s, and of course, like all cult leaders, he began with a noble cause, with a noble intention of helping the downtrodden, helping the alcoholics, helping the blacks in America. But of course, he was a psychotic person, and as all cults go, it kind of ended up in debauchery, cases of assault, cases of politics mongering, and etc. So he attracted a lot of attention from the FBI and New York Times, and there was a lot of bad press he was getting. And of course, to cut a long story short, he realized that the FBI was coming to get him, and there was no way he could escape. So he decided to kill everyone and himself. So and parallelly, when I read about him, I also purchased a book called Jim Jones to read about his life and stuff like that. He was a wild and a very cunning man. He was obnoxious, and it made me think that a man like this, I can understand him killing off the entire cult because he wanted to start afresh. But would he really kill himself? So I began thinking that what if he staged this massacre and he himself escaped? So that just kind of made me think that what if I write a story about a cult leader who kills his entire cult to make a new beginning? And then I thought that what if there is also another person from the cult who has escaped this massacre, who has not died? He or she is a survivor and is hunting this cult leader down to seek revenge. So that's how Until I Find You evolved, and I began, and of course I was very sure that it's going to be set in India, and it will not be, of course, USA of 1970s. So around that time, Sandeep, my husband, we both are very fond of traveling. So we had gone to Shekhawati. We had gone on a driving trip to Shekhawati, and we stayed in a heritage property in one of the villages called Mandava. Now Mandava has beautiful frescoes and stuff like that. So the moment I got out of the car, or the moment the car was going through Mandava village, it's a quiet, sleepy little village, tucked away, forgotten by time, dusty, very arid, in the Shekhawati region of Rajasthan. And I knew that a cult leader who's on the run from the cops will come to a place like this and hide. And it also, I didn't want to kind of set the story in Delhi or Bombay or any metropolis. I wanted it to be quaint and very Indian and stuff like that. So I just fell in love with Shekhawati. So I created a fictional village called Banod. So Banod is actually Mandava.
Okay.
So that's the genesis of the story of Until I Find You.
Wow, that's like quite interesting. I mean, how the whole thing came together.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you're writing a thriller, there are obviously, there are several twists and turns, in the plot, and which kind of keep the reader guessing all the time. But you also have to balance the pace with the character development. So how do you do that?
Okay. So basically the thing is that I've been writing all my life. While I've not been writing fiction all my life, but I've been writing for almost 18 years. Before I started writing fiction from 2014 January. Before that, for about 18 years, I have written and worked for various newspapers, magazines across the country as a features writer. I have written and worked for some of the very reputed MNCs in the country, like Hindustan Lever, Procter & Gamble, UNICEF, Radio Mirchi, Marriott Hotels, as a corporate writer. So writing is not new to me. So when you have spent so much time writing, even though those 18 years were not fiction writing, but you're creating a story, right? When you're writing for a brand or something, so you know your checks and balances.
Right.
And when I started writing fiction, before I switched channels, I did the writing course with London School of Journalism, which is one of the best writing courses that you can do. I did an online course. This is an 11-month course, and it's so they basically teach you the various aspects of writing, as to how to make a beginning, how to create characters, how to write dialogues, how to inject tension in the story, how to avoid the story from lagging and stuff like that. Now, like a lot of people ask me that, Kanchana, you've been writing all your life. Why did you feel the need to do a course? Two things. The thing is that I love learning. I love learning new things. I love doing courses, and I just enjoy learning. The entire process of learning. And I felt that and I continue to feel that, Sangeeta, is that writing, like any other craft or any other art, needs to be learned. There are certain nuances, there are certain tenets of learning.
Yeah.
Like, say, for example, if I want to be a singer, we all know that Sangeeta is a fantastic singer, and so if I would, and I can't sing to save my life, so if I were to start singing, I would enroll for a singing class. Or if I want to learn dance, I would enroll for a class and learn the basic steps and etc. So I don't know why people just think that you can just open your laptop or open your notebook and start writing. Of course you can, but I think if you want to do something properly, if you want to do something nicely, it's always better to enroll for a course and which teaches you. So this brings me back to the question that these courses, and then I followed it up with another course with Curtis Brown of London on how to write a psychological thriller. So these courses, they kind of make you think about the very craft of writing. And of course, I'm a voracious reader. So I read a lot of thrillers, and I learn from the thrillers the art and the craft of writing. So everything comes together. So and you have to think and plot a lot when you're writing. So all of this comes together, Sangeeta, when you are writing, and your characterization, your pacing of the plot, and everything.
Okay, all right. So while you were writing this book, were there any challenges that you faced?
So I take a long time to write. Unlike a lot of new age authors who finish their book in 3 months and publish and
Yeah, that's
etc.
quite a feat. So I don't know how they do it.
I
but
don't
yeah.
know how they do it.
Yeah.
So I take quite a long time to write. It takes me about a year to come up with something which is good and which I can send to my editor. So challenges. So describing the life in a small village,
Yeah.
like Shikhavati. Uh, while I had been to Shikhavati, but of course when I was actually writing the book, I was not in Shikhavati. I was sitting in Gurgaon, Palm Springs. So it was not very easy to recreate, what I had seen
Mm.
in 2018, and then the character of Virat,
Yeah.
who's the inspector. So I was very clear that the inspector or the investigating officer or Inspector Virat would be very different from the cops that I've seen on Netflix or Hotstar. I watch a lot of thriller series, Indian and international, and I see that the police officer always is one a super cop, and second he has a dark past, and he's either an alcoholic or he's battling some kind of demons. So I was very clear that my cop is not going to be anything like this. He's going to be very different. So first of all, I made him quite short. He just barely makes the cut, and he has a name Virat. So his mother hoped that he would be tall and strong and huge. So here is this 5 feet 5 something guy, straddled with a name like Virat, and people call him Chota Virat, and they humiliate him. And he has zero ambition in life. He doesn't want to get ahead. He's very happy when he got transferred out of the head office in Jaipur or wherever, and he was put in charge of this sleepy little police chowki in Panod, where he doesn't have to do anything. वो पूरा दिन बैठ के मीठा मीठा चाय पीता है and पकौड़े खाता है, and he's very happy because in this small little village everyone respects him, unlike in a city where his father taunts him कि तुम तो कुछ भी नहीं करते हो, we thought you will become a police inspector और बड़ी dowry मिलेगी, कुछ भी नहीं, तुमसे कौन शादी करेगा. So he's taunted by his father at home, he's taunted by his colleagues, and even if he's not taunted, all his colleagues have gone ahead to become senior officers, and whereas he is still languishing. So he's very happy when he gets transferred to Banod as the head of the police chowki. उसे कुछ करना नहीं पड़ता है. And then something happens, and this guy, he kind of really lives up to his name Virat, and he kind of he unravels and he unearths this huge big case which had been kind of languishing in the police files of the cult leader who killed this entire cult and was hiding in disguise and then a lot of other things, as you know.
Yeah.
So his character his so this is a very important thing in story writing. Your important characters, they should travel a journey. They should be different from what they are in the beginning, and that's what I wanted to do with Virat. I mean, I wanted to make him really Virat by the end of the story.
She's created enough suspense for all of us to buy the book if we haven't. Yes. All right. Okay. So of course, this book apart, you've written other books as well. So as somebody who likes to write, so just tell us that what does your typical writing day look like? I mean, are you a morning writer, a night owl, or it is like whenever it flows kind of a person?
No, I'm a very morning person. I've always been a very morning person.
Okay.
I'm at my creative best, in the morning. And about that second part of what you just asked, that write when you want. If you want to write seriously, not just write. I think anything that you want to do seriously, you can't wait for inspiration to strike.
Absolutely.
Because you have to kind of build your writing muscle, and you have to make your writing muscle work for you.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is by doing it every day, at a particular time in the day. It's very important to do it every day at a particular time. Say, like, for example, if you want to exercise, you don't just go to the gym anytime. If you shouldn't, yeah, you
Routine.
should. So you should hit the gym every day at the same time, so your body um, your body begins to identify that time of the day as the gym time. So the same thing is with writing. If you want to take up writing, if you want to write, then make it a habit to write every day at a particular time, so that your brain and your mind and your heart and your soul recognizes 9 a.m. as the writing time. I feel it's very important.
No, you have a point. Because I do it, so yes, it is like everything else. If you build discipline into your life, then of course everything falls in place accordingly.
Absolutely.
So tell me, do you have moments of self-doubt or what they call that creative block?
Oh my God, all the time. I did not have this creative block when I used to write for newspapers and magazines, Sangeeta, because I think, at that time I was writing for money. I mean, I was writing as a profession. So I was writing to a brief. Whether it was writing for publications, editors had given me a particular topic to write on, or I was writing for, say, Hindustan Lever or Procter & Gamble, etc. So I was writing on a project. There was a deadline, and I had to finish it.
Yeah.
So there was no question of creative block. And of course, writing on Axe Dio and writing fiction is quite different. While I don't mean to demean those who write advertising, but writing to a brief is a little different.
Yeah.
And when you're writing fiction, sometimes the story just doesn't want to move, and and that has happened to me many times. And every time it has happened, one, it is extremely frustrating. It is extremely annoying because you just feel you're up against a wall and you don't know what to do, where to go. But I always feel, I know this is going to sound a little bit hocus pocusy, but this is a fact, and all writers will kind of say the same, that we don't choose the story. The story chooses us. We are the medium through which the story tells itself. And sometimes, and I have experienced this many times, that when I am trying to, or when I'm not approaching the story correct, okay, the story climbs up, and the muse leaves me, unless and until I get to the right path. I don't know. This is very bizarre, and I know it sounds weird, and I know it sounds, come on, this is like bullshit. But this happens, sometimes the story takes over you, and the story does not want to be written the way you're writing, and that's when your creativity goes out of the way. And then you have to keep on chipping at it and thinking and brainstorming, and then suddenly one day say, oh my God, I should, this is not what I want to write, this is how it should go. And then the floodgates are open. And this has happened to me so many times. Sangeeta, it's uncanny. It is really uncanny. So which is why I bow to my muse and say, okay, lead me where you want me to go.
Well, that is interesting, but I kind of agree with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't happen, no matter how hard you try. And I think also if you're trying too hard, it doesn't happen. So I feel what I do is that I just let it be. Just give it up for a few days, and then maybe it will come. I mean, there is no deadline if you're writing like this, so it's kind of okay. So tell me, nowadays we see that there are so many books coming out. I mean, it's like a dime a dozen, and every second day somebody or the other is coming out with a new book. So in today's publishing landscape, so to say, what do you think are the biggest opportunities and challenges for Indian authors?
Okay, so I think the biggest challenge is to find a good publisher.
Yeah.
First of all, there are so many publishers, and there are so many small publishers who take authors for a ride. They kind of, first of all, some of them, I'm told, charge a lot of money, and then they don't distribute the book. Then they say that we'll give you an advance, they don't give you an advance. So finding a good publisher is like finding a good home for your book. So I've been very fortunate that I've had very good publishers. I've got very good editors. There is a serious absence of good editors in the country, and most of the editors don't know their grammar well, so they don't edit the book properly, and they don't kind of point it out to the author that this is what you need to change.
Right.
So I've been very fortunate to have had very good publishers, very good editors at HarperCollins. In Om Books, while Om Books is a little smaller publishing house than HarperCollins, but my editor Shantanu Ray Chaudhary, he's one of the best editors in the country, and so it's very important to have a good editor. And then I think after all this, the biggest challenge or the biggest hurdle that lies in the way of an author is the entire marketing machinery,
Yes.
which has become like jhalak dikhla ja. Matlab, it's like crazy. You have like the kind of things that authors are doing, making reels, dancing, hopping, singing to sell books. I think it is ridiculous. So but then you have to market your books, and but then I feel that you have to decide how far do you want to go, what do you want to do, because as you rightly said, there are so many books coming out.
Yeah.
Your book is just one in the huge pile. So, but then it's entirely a personal call. While I market my books reasonably, and I don't think I do a very good job of it, because I can see many of my other friends, doing a lot more. But then you do what you're comfortable with. So you draw your boundaries, and you kind of decide how far to go and what to do. So these, I would feel, are the challenges that authors face.
It's true, actually, but then at the end of the day, it is your call. What is the extent to which you are willing to go to sell your book? Yeah, I guess to each his own.
Yeah.
Whatever feels right, you will do it. So tell me, when you're writing thrillers, now, do you think this kind of a genre, it gets the kind of attention that it deserves in the Indian market?
So this is divided into two: COVID and post-COVID.
Okay.
So before COVID, thrillers in India were doing very well. People were picking up books, and there was a lot of sales in the airport. In fact, sorry, Nobody's Child sold very well from the airport shops. But something happened to the Indian reading market, especially the thriller reading Indian market during COVID, because there was such a huge influx of thriller series, web series, both international as well as Indian, on all the OTT platforms, that they began to see thrillers more than reading them. While thrillers internationally are still doing great, they're selling in large numbers, but in India there has been a dip. So thriller writers in India are facing a crush.
And a question that I've been dying to ask, does it make any difference because of your gender?
So yes and no. In the sense, there are lots of we are thankfully in the era of loads of women writing thrillers internationally and in the country. Women have been writing mysteries, starting from Agatha Christie and so many others. But at the same time, I have been often at the receiving end of a very surprised look from men, especially. Oh my God, you write such dark stories, and you wear a sari. I love wearing saris. I'm usually always in a sari at an event, and you have a child, and you are married, and so people make these kind of stupid comments, which just kind of first it is to irritate me, but then I realized they make very good Instagram posts and on threads, and so we just kind of brush them off, Sangeeta, because people keep on making yeah.
So men also write thrillers and women also write thrillers. So do you think women have a different approach towards writing them, or do you think there isn't much of a difference?
No, I think there is a little bit of a difference, in the sense that women writing thrillers, they explore they explored the psychology of the woman a little more intuitively and a little more deeply, whereas men focus a lot more on police procedurals and stuff like that. You will see that most women thriller writers, they write about, as to kind of to give it a very awfully sexist name, which it has earned by itself, domestic thrillers like Gillian Flynn started the trend of Gone Girl and etc. That exploring the madness and the chaos and the psychosis in a woman's mind with relation to domestic issues.
Right.
So this has spawned off a large number of kind of women writing thrillers, especially in the West, and but then if you and there are a couple of men also writing in the same genre, possibly trying to kind of trying to sell their and excel in that genre. But in general, you will see that men thriller writers, they kind of write or focus more on police procedural, very investigative. So there is a little bit of a difference, but yeah.
Because I guess inherently men and women are different.
Yeah.
So we approach everything differently. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is also something that we look at it
Yeah.
in a different way. So tell me, we spoke about the number of people who are writing today, and like I said, a dime a dozen when it comes to the books that we see nowadays coming out. So anyone who's trying to break into this, a young writer who wants to get into writing and publishing a book, what advice would you give them?
I think it's very difficult for new and young authors to kind of make a start now, because publishers have become very 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 choosy and very picky, because there are so many submissions coming in. So I would say that build a unique voice, of your own. Don't try to write a genre that's apparently selling more. Like everyone says that romances in India sell more, or non-fiction sells more. Write what you believe in, because I feel that as an author, as a writer, you are the first reader of your book. So if you don't enjoy what you are writing, chances are that nobody else will. So write what you love to read, and build your unique voice, which kind of makes you stand apart.
Yeah, again, like with everything else, how are you different from others?
Yeah.
So if you're just part of the crowd or run of the mill, then it's going to be very difficult. So another thing, like I think most women get asked this question. I mean, everybody wants to know that how are you balancing your different roles and responsibilities along with what you're doing. So any tips regarding that?
So Sangeeta, the thing is, I've been, as I told you in the beginning, that I've been a writer for a very long time. And I've been a freelance writer for a very long time, almost more than 18 years. Before 2000, so 2014, I had clocked in almost 18 years of writing for newspapers and magazines. So I have the discipline of writing, and it's all about, I think, training and training your family and your larger circle. Because if you kind of blur the lines between your work and your home, then others will also step all over the lines. So I think you have to be very disciplined yourself, and then send out the message to your support staff, to your parents, even if they don't live with you, and your family, your spouses, your kids, that this is my work time, this is my writing time, and I'm not to be disturbed. But if you are sitting and scrolling on the phone or taking calls while writing, then you're sending mixed signals to everyone. So it all depends. Discipline starts with yourself.
So before we end, I have a rapid fire round for her. But before that, any questions from any one of you?
Does the editor guide you to what you should write?
No. So I have not had that experience.
Okay.
While some of my
So
friends.
idea was your own.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea was my own, but after submission, especially Nobody's Child and Until I Find You, because the editor for both were very good. They had a few suggestions that, Kanchana, why don't you change this bit about the character?
Okay.
and and there was a dialogue, there was a conversation with the editor, and I feel it's very important for an author to have an open mind
Yes.
with the when interacting with the editor, because the editor is completely an outsider. The
Mm.
editor, he or she, is not invested emotionally or mentally with the book, and is kind of looking at the story
Right.
from a very very dispassionate point of view. So the person will have very good points to make, and so yeah. So like, while I've never been asked by an editor to do this, do that. There have been certain changes in the books which we've debated upon, and then I've carried it on.
Have all your books been thrillers? I haven't read
Except the
any.
first one. The first one is a relationship drama.
Okay.
It's called A Forgotten Affair, and it is about the very sensitive issue of emotional abuse that educated women face in so-called educated families, where they are minimized and where they are kind of put down. And so it is written in a very thrilling manner. This woman who is in such a marriage, she kind of loses her memory as as an accident. I mean, she's in an accident and she loses her memory, and as she's slowly recovering, she begins to look and assess her marriage in a different way. And then how does she come out of it, or what does she do? So except the first one, all the others are thrillers.
The mention of some cultural experiences in Kashmir, right? Any of that is reflected in the
Cultural experiences.
in Kashmir. That's what the
Kashmir.
Nani, what do you say? Cultural experiences in Kashmir?
Kashmir. So I was wondering if that is reflected in.
Yeah.
No, I've been to Kashmir number of times. Once was for a literature festival.
Right.
Yeah, and the other two occasions have been pure holidays. But no, Kashmir does not figure in my books.
Okay. It was just like the cultural history of Kashmir. So that's why it's
Cultural history.
yeah.
That was the topic.
Yeah,
That was today's topic, yeah.
That was the topic we were doing.
Oh, Acha, I didn't know that. Okay, I had no clue.
What is a dead ringer?
Okay, a dead ring. Okay, so a dead ringer is an absolute dead giveaway. Isn't when she looks at the picture of this boy,
Yes.
he's a complete photocopy of his of his mother, and Jenny, the protagonist, the survivor, she thought and she believed in her mind that the child and the mother, who was her best friend, they both have died in the cult massacre.
Yeah.
So she's stunned, and she's kind of flummoxed when she sees this boy's picture in the magazine, and that's how it starts. That's how kind of starts her odyssey.
Anyone else has any questions? Okay, then just a few fun questions for her.
Okay.
So you write thrillers.
Yeah.
So any thriller author you admire deeply?
Oh yeah, those. I love Gillian Flynn, Mary Kubica, Lisa Jewell. These are and Alice Feeney.
All right.
So these are my absolute favorites.
Okay. So when you decide to write a book, is it plot first or the character first? What happens first?
So both of them, like an interesting character, and the seed of the story, they kind of come together, and then I flesh it out.
All right. Okay. Your dream literary dinner guest, alive or dead?
Okay. I would love to go on a dinner date with Jeffrey Archer, very much alive.
Yeah, very much alive. Yes.
And I would
Yeah,
like
he's still in
to
prison.
I would like to go on a dinner date with Alice Feeney, because I've just sometime back I read one of her books, which is called Sometimes I Lie. Oh my God, it is so psychotic, and it is so amazingly fantastic that I want to talk to her. I want to meet her. I want to talk to her about that thing.
Okay. All right. So one book you wish you had written.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ah. All right. So tell me, the best writing advice you've ever received. Does anyone here want to give her?
Actually, no. I don't think of anyone who's given me any idea.
So one word that defines your writing style.
Plotting. In-depth plotting. That's two words. But yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. So when you're writing, are you writing in a completely quiet environment, or is there some music or something playing in the background?
No, no music, and I shut the door of my room, whichever room I'm sitting in, writing in. But having said that, nowadays I plug on some music because in these condominiums there's construction happening all the time, and there is this constant drilling sound which just drives me crazy.
Okay.
So I put my Bluetooth earpods, and on Spotify I switch on some work music.
Okay.
It has to be a very kind of no lyrics, no nothing, no famous song, just instrumental music, just to shut off the sound of the construction.
All right. So the last question: a habit you swear by when you are in a writing rut.
When I'm in a writing rut. Okay. So what I do is, at that time I have the pile of writing help books, as I said earlier on, that I love to do courses, and I have all these courses material with me. I've done masterclass with Dan Brown, with David Baldacci,
Okay.
and then of course my courses with London School of Journalism and etc. And then I have some other writing help books. So when I'm stuck in a rut, I go back to these courses. I read the lessons. I read certain highlighted portions of the chapters, and that's what I do.
So basically recalibrate.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's it. And over to you, Anjali. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed the conversation. I hope everyone else did too.